And we don't always get it right, and that's one of the huge parts of our message is that we're willing to not get it right. We're willing to try and fail and then get up again and try again. And sometimes just for people to realize that you're a real person that is trying to navigate, the opportunity to honor the Lord. Jesus was criticized, and he was perfect. I can't expect to not be criticized. You can't control what people think or say.
Yeah.
But you can't control your response.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm accountable for.
Welcome to Radical Radio with Robby Dawkins. Robby is a renowned speaker and equipper in over 70 countries, as well as author of international best-selling book, Do What Jesus Did. Here's your host, Robby Dawkins.
Hey, welcome back to Radical Radio. It is so good to be back with you, and I'm so glad we're back in our series and hitting back with getting you some incredible content. And today, I would say this is, up there at one of my tops, because the guest here with us today is, to me, such a high-valued friend and such a great mentor and just all-around incredible man of God in every way. Bill Johnson, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
You're such a busy man, and it's like I'm always almost a little timid to say, hey, can you come do this? But you're so gracious. Thank you.
I'm happy to.
You're so kind.
Always a privilege. Yep.
And I want to start with something just personal to say.
Yep.
We were, several years ago, we were in the process of rescuing some Afghans and getting them out. And we had about 25 stuck at the Chaman border and couldn't get them across. And we were sweating it, and really were. And it's so many people, and many of you who are watching, you guys helped and sent incredible donations and really helped in such amazing ways. But at the almost perfect exact time, you texted and said, hey, what's it going to take to get these guys across and to help them? And I told you, and you said, consider it done, from Benny and I. And I just got to tell you, it meant so much.
Oh, good.
And, these are people, people don't realize, many of these people, I've been in their homes. I've played with their kids.
Right.
They've made meals for me and stuff like that. I've slept in their houses and just, it's just, it feels really, really personal in that setting. And I just want to thank you.
Yeah, of course.
You stepped up and you're just so gracious. And so I really want to say how much I appreciate that.
You're
but
welcome.
Today I want to talk about something that I think so many people, leaders especially, but all of us just as part of the general population go through. And I'd like to just talk about how to deal with critics and how to deal with criticism and my experience of just watching you from a distance, a little bit up close, that you really navigate this so well, I feel. And I mean, Bethel's had its fair amount, maybe even bigger amount of critics. And I've just always appreciated it just with so much grace of how you handled it. And so I wanted just to ask you, and part of it is a two-part question, and take the parts as you see fit. But when you run into somebody who is, and it's hard to say, but I think there's a difference between being critical and then somebody making critical observation that's showing the antithesis of a perspective or something like that. But how do you deal with critics, and how do you counsel people in dealing with critics, both that can be externally but also internally, and how do you navigate that and weigh that in leadership?
First of all, Jesus was criticized, and he was perfect.
Yep.
So if I'm going to follow him, as imperfect as I am, I can't expect to not be criticized.
Yeah.
Secondly, what we learn how to navigate actually determines the measure of our reward.
Ooh, that's so good.
If I can't navigate loss well, I can't be trusted with the measure of gain he's designed me for. If I can't navigate betrayal well, I can't be trusted with the level of loyal friends that he has designed for me. I'll take advantage of it. And if I can't handle criticism well, then I can't be trusted with the level of praise he wants to bring into my life. So the point is it's a school. Yeah. And what we do in the hard times shows what we can handle in the measure of reward. Because he's a father who looks to reward. Without faith, it's impossible to please him. Then it says that it's through that area that he gives us reward. So he's a father who looks for opportunity to reward. Gifts are free. Rewards are in acknowledgement of right actions, right choices. And so that's part of the process. That's part of the program. And rewards are important because
Sure.
he rewards those who seek him. That's the whole deal. So how do I deal with it? Most of the time I just ignore it.
Yeah.
I don't find that it's worthy of my time to make sure everybody's happy with me.
Sure.
That's not a good way to spend my life. There are situations where I felt I needed to respond.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to respond. First of all, I have to respond in my prayer life. It's where I have to deal with it first. If I don't handle a response in my personal time with the Lord well, then I'm not going to do it well in public.
Yeah.
So my approach is that the Bible says you don't criticize a servant to their master. So I don't bring any complaints about a person to the Lord.
Wow.
I don't say they've done me wrong. They deny this part of Scripture that I accept or whatever. And then I pray for them when I take communion, which I do almost every day.
Wow.
I pray for them, and I pray by name for the list of primary critics in my life. I pray for by name. And I thank the Lord for their yes, because they are opposing me in their zeal for the Lord. And so if you can recognize that they're doing what they believe is best, and it takes courage for them to do what they're doing. In most cases, it takes courage.
Yeah.
So I honor them before the Lord. I thank the Lord for their yes. I pray for God to prosper them inside and out, their inner desires, their dreams that they were born for. And also external for health. One in particular a couple of them have a real health issue right now. And so I pray for healing in their bodies, for great strength, not so that I can be proven right.
I like that.
I can't pray. I don't pray for the Lord to show them I'm right and they're wrong. That's not a healthy prayer. They're not my servant, they're his. So that's my approach. And then and I bless them, and I pray. One of the primary prayers I pray is that God would give them a rich legacy, that their children, their grandchildren would walk faithfully with him because of their zeal, because of their yes to the Lord. So that's my approach as I work hard to bless them as much as I know how.
Wow. I think every time I get together with you, I feel convicted about something. So this is good. This is a good thing to feel convicted about.
Right.
So you're really taking that approach of bless those who curse you or who speak ill of you or who, man, that's so powerful. And if it's something that is, and this is a little bit of a different question, I think, if it's something that's internal within your network, within your own group, or, for like a pastor within their own church, where that it's maybe not to the point of, and we, people don't realize how fragile we leaders are.
True.
There's real fragility with us. There's real, they think because of maybe some of the great things we do that we're just, tough at it. But yet there's real fragileness there. There's real tenderness there. And that gets affected. But, when you have that, how do you discern, or how do I ask this question? Like navigate between, is this something I should really weigh, or is this something I should just sort of discard? Like, I mean, I know that's not a clear question, but I think you get the point.
No, it makes sense. Oftentimes there's a measure of truth in the criticism.
So good.
And being able to eat the meat, throw out the bones is important. As a practice, this may not sit well with folks, but as a practice, I don't generally receive criticism or correction from people I don't want to be like.
Wow.
So
Wow, that's good.
they have to have something. It doesn't mean God can't use somebody who I think is just, outrageously, not living well.
Sure.
And the Lord can use them and has to speak into my life. But typically I'm going to pay most attention to those that I really have an admiration for, some part about their life that I admire and that I want to be like. So I'm going to pay attention. But even that, I've got to wait before the Lord.
Yeah.
And I'll pray, God, this doesn't seem right to me. It doesn't seem fair to me, but you know what's right. You know what I need. So I'm going to ask you to deal with me according to, what you know to be right, what you know to be true. And so it's just the acknowledgement. Yeah, they could be right, at least in part.
So is that how you, let's say, would differentiate between what may be considered constructive feedback versus just harmful criticism, is by taking it to the Lord? Is that a process? Or
you have to.
Yeah.
You have to. You have to, but you have to go willing to be corrected.
Oh, so good.
You can't go because you're hurt.
Yeah.
Just because I'm hurt doesn't mean what they said wasn't. I may be protecting something that he wants to deal with.
Ooh.
And so there could be pain because I've been shamed or, embarrassed or whatever. You just gotta, you gotta be honest and own up to it. But you have to be willing to be corrected when you come before the Lord. Lord, I'm going to put this in your hands. And I don't want to ignore this that they have said if this was from you.
Yeah.
If it's not from you, then I need the grace to treat them respectfully because they took the risk, and also for me to be able to stand upright in a way that honors you. So,
yeah. Hi, Robby Dawkins here, and I want to encourage you to partner with us. We are doing our most ambitious year ever when it comes to our Arab Kingdom training schools and our American Kingdom training schools that we call ACTS, AKTS. And you can go to actsakts.global and partner with us. You can sponsor schools. You can also go to robbydawkins.com and be a regular partner with us. I want to encourage you to do that. Pray about that. Ask what the Lord wants you to do, because we need your support and able to go to these nations. These schools cost anywhere between $35,000 to $40,000 each. We have 5 just outside of the country this year. And then we have more that we're adding into this country this year. Normally we do 1 to 2 a year. We are looking at doing 4 this year right here in the United States. So we need your help. We need you to sow into it. And we need you to send us so we can go and equip the church to do the works and the ministry of Jesus. Partner with us today. You sow, we go. And now let's get back to Radical Radio. I think I remember you telling a story one time when you were in Weaverville and somebody came to you and another one of your leaders, I don't know if it was Chris or Danny, maybe somebody else who, went up to kind of rebuke them, and you stopped. I don't know, rebuke, that may be too hard, but caution them. And you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you stopped and you said, hang on, do you know how much courage it took for them to come and confront this?
Yeah.
Like, what was I'm like, how do we get there? How do we get to that place? And what is fighting that in us that kind of keeps us, from being vulnerable in that way? I don't know. I know that's kind of a broad question.
No, it's a good one. It's, all of this is challenging to walk through. It's easy to write it out on paper. It's another thing to live it,
True.
But I remember a young man came to me with just a list of scriptures he read out of Ezekiel against pastors, that were, stealing from the sheep and all that stuff. And he read all of them with his voice quivering and trembling, thinking it was the word of the Lord for me, which I wasn't doing any of the things he was accusing, but it stood out to him. So his voice just quivered and trembled. And as he spoke this to me in front of a group of people at a prayer meeting, and it took a lot of courage for him to do that. And so I just let him till he's finished. And then I said, I don't believe what you said is correct, but I really am thankful for you bringing that to me. then I had, I think it was Chris, he was there. I had him go get a bucket of water and a towel.
That's right. Oh, yeah.
And then I said, can I please just wash your feet and honor you for that courage?
Man.
And it was the right thing at the right time.
Man, it's such an incredible act of humility, and yet an incredible, courageous leadership move to make. And when people are faced with that, are you ever in error for going that way when maybe it's not with the person who's in the right spirit to receive that? Are you making a mistake by washing their feet?
Could be.
You think so? Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either. That's why I'm asking the question.
I only did it once.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did it in that one situation. Yeah. I've done it before, but not in a conflict situation.
Yeah.
So it felt like the Lord.
The right thing.
Felt like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so, yeah, I gotta be honest, I'm still kind of blown away by your just praying for these lists of people that are taking shots at you and all that. And yet still, and I just, it's so right, it's so right. I always think of Jesus in the moment where, the Roman centurion is coming for a servant to be healed, and the other, the disciples, even the other Jewish leaders are like going, hey, wait a minute, this is our enemy, hello, let a servant die.
Exactly.
And likely a servant was a Jewish servant, likely, maybe not, we don't know. But just I'm sorry, I'm off track by saying that, but I can't imagine these guys standing around listening to him saying, I haven't seen such faith in all of Israel.
Yeah, stunning.
Yeah. And what gets us more to that place and away from the hostile revenge maybe, or the, is there, what counsel would you have to get us to that posture? I've thought about that a lot.
Yeah. Never turn down a chance to die.
Wow. Selah. That's so good.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's always a painful choice.
It is a painful choice.
And yeah.
Man, I bet you've walked through a few of those. Everybody thinks when you've reached a certain level, if you will, that you kind of skate past all that, but it really does intensify. I can't remember who the first person I heard, many have said it since, but greater levels, greater devils, higher levels, higher devils, but it's so true. It's like the enemy just, and people think that we kind of just get past that because of, accomplishments or success, however you see that.
Yeah.
And, but yet we're still very vulnerable. We're still just human beings.
Just people.
I think about and I know you got a lot, even nationally, criticism over this. And, when you were praying for the little baby who had passed away, I know the names, I'm just not saying it sort of intentionally. But, and we were with you on that.
Sure.
We were contending. I think everybody was, and I remember getting really angry at the opposition of that and the criticism of that. And then you released a video and you just, it seemed to, I don't know if that, calmed everything down or if that incited it more. I don't know. I didn't know the inside of it, but I thought, wow, what a phenomenal response.
Yeah, it helped for the most part, I think, because
it looked like it to me.
Yeah, because it was just an honest. It wasn't a bold decree of some sort of faith. It was an honest explanation of a journey.
Yeah,
and they may or may not agree with it, but here's what we're doing and why.
Yeah,
and sometimes just for people to realize that you're a real person that is trying to navigate, the opportunity to honor the Lord and to serve people well. When they just see that, sometimes that just helps calm down the fire in them, as though we were arrogantly trying to, I don't know, draw attention to ourselves. I don't even know what the criticism was because I didn't pay attention. But
I didn't either.
But the point is that sometimes just being real with people. Yeah, in fact, one of the major critics of ours a few years ago, involved in a film and everything against us.
Yeah.
One of the major critics watched my wife's Celebration of Life memorial service and for 3 hours and wept and wept and wept and wept, and then responded to us apologizing.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was, and all it was, them seeing that this is just a real journey from real people that are just trying their best to honor God. And we don't always get it right. And that's one of the huge parts of our message is that we're willing to not get it right. We're willing to try and fail and then get up again and try again. And sometimes when people just get brought into that part of the journey, their heart kind of warms up to the fact that, hey, they're just normal people that are just trying to do their best to honor God.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And I've been in dialogue with them several times since then, yeah.
I'm just thinking that message you preached right after Benny passed, and I texted you, and I'm sure you had so many people text you. It blew me away, I'm not giving up on this faith.
Mm-hmm.
And so many believers and so many well-known ministry people, because something didn't happen the way they prayed or the way, and I sympathize. I understand.
Totally.
Because of hurt and loss and grief, it's there. It's a reality. We all have to deal with it. But man, I don't even have a question for you. I just want to thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Because
Thanks.
it modeled so well.
Yeah, good.
And that had to be so hard, Bill. That had to be hard.
Well, we have 4 services Sunday morning.
So
I told the guys, I said, listen, I can only do this once.
Yeah.
So I did. I said, I can only do it once. You'll have to play it for the other services because I can't do this one more than once, but I can do it once. And it's important. I didn't want to miss the chance because you only have the initial response before people. You only get that chance once.
True.
I can delay it a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, but that one raw moment is helpful because it's so raw.
Yeah.
It's because it's such a tender moment. And if you can somehow do your best, in fact, I tell our folks, I say, I'm not trying to be strong, I'm trying to be faithful.
Yeah. Oh,
so my approach is just to lay everything out in the open so that you know where I'm at, where we're headed, why.
Yeah.
And what do we do with this loss, this disappointment? All of that's just a huge part of our life. In fact, right after that, I met with our staff, which is pretty significantly large, and said, ask anything. Wow. It's all open. Then I met our school of ministry, first year and second year, 2 different classes, same thing. Said, you've come here to be a part of a supernatural school. And my wife just died. So ask away. Ask anything that you want. Nothing is off limits.
Wow.
And just opened it up so that they can ask questions too and kind of clear the air, but also just be a part of a journey with imperfect people who haven't arrived. And the quicker we realize that, the better.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
So good. It's so amazing. And, you sort of, in that moment, just to feel the humanity of yourself, to feel the reality and to realize, and I mean, this is, Jesus was not just grieving the greatest of all the prophets when they beheaded John the Baptist. This was his cousin.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a family member, and doing a lot of work in the Middle East, I know how tight those families are.
Yeah, yeah.
Their family system is way tighter than ours,
Yeah.
and, here in the West. but just noticing how tight, that is. Hey, I hope you're enjoying this episode that is brought to you by Robby Dawkins Ministries today. This podcast is funded through viewer support like you, and to continue this journey, we need your help. If you enjoy the content that we bring you here on Radical Radio, I want to ask you to consider continuing your support by giving to it. Your contribution will help us to create more impactful content. You can click on the link in the description below or visit robbydawkins.com and select Radical Radio when prompted. Thanks. Now let's get back to Radical Radio. How do you maintain vision and mission? Here at Bethel Church, when you have that criticism of opposition, to where so many people adjust their goal or just the end vision because of critics, but somehow it seems like you guys haven't adjusted that because of those outside. Does my question make sense?
Yeah, it does. Someone wrote some things against me that is an acquaintance, a friend. And so I wrote him and I thanked him. I thanked him for what he wrote. I said, not because I think it'll help the church, but because it's helping me. It's helping me because most of what I want in life is on the other side of adverse winds.
Ooh, wow.
You can sail your boat into the wind.
Yeah.
You just have to adjust the rudder and the sail.
Yeah.
The rudder is your speech, the sail is the attitude of your heart. And if you can adjust those two things, you can advance against adverse winds. And so I thanked him because he gave me an opportunity to go after something that I ache for and long for, that I know I can't just coast into. It's got to be because I make right decisions. And so anyway, I thanked him. He ended up changing the book, but it's important that you use. You can't control what people think or say.
Yeah. But
you can't control your response.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm accountable for.
It's almost like that wind of opposition. You're using it to propel you, is what it sounds like you're saying to me.
It is, yeah.
You're like putting up the sail and catching the wind rather than allowing it beat against you. Is that what you mean?
Absolutely.
Man, that's so good because that way it's not, it's not overcoming you. It's not getting the victory.
Yep.
But instead you're using it to move forward in.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that, and this sounds like it's off topic a little bit, but there's a lot of people that are, and I'll be honest, I don't understand it. I've heard even friends of mine who have said this, but they talk very critically about what they call the NAR and the New Apostolic Reformation, and they speak about it very critically. But when I've heard, guys like I was here and heard Ed Silvoso, and I think he's maybe a bit of the originator of that, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't understand I don't understand the criticism of that. Isn't Reformation good?
I don't know. I don't know what it is, and I don't know what they're criticizing.
That's where I'm at. I've asked, and then I hear the explanations, and I've wondered if maybe they're just not capturing. We both grew up in Pentecostal backgrounds.
Yeah.
And we saw things. When I hear stories about Earl, your father, I'm like, man, how blessed you and Bob and any other siblings you had were to have people like, have a dad like that. And, I'm sure he had feet of clay, just like we're talking about us having with grief and things like that. But there was, I think there's somehow sort of grasping maybe some unhealth in certain culture and saying it's because of this NAR perspective or something, but I don't understand what it is.
Yeah.
And I don't understand the criticism of it. When I heard Ed, it was transforming our communities. And that's what I understand Jesus' mission is all about.
Well, if he is NAR, then I'm all for it.
Yeah.
He's one of the most transformational individuals and thinkers we've got alive today. I had a magazine, a guy who was writing for a magazine, interview me, and which I don't always allow, but this particular case was positive. And he asked me, what about, the your involvement in NAR and that whole thing. I said, what is the NAR? 'Cause I didn't know. I didn't even know what it was. He laughed. He thought it was so funny. But anyway, he had to explain what it was. And I went, yeah, I don't know. I'm not officially a member. I don't know if you get a membership card or if it's a belief system or what. I'm not real sure. I do believe in apostles for today. I do believe in I do believe in Reformation. I do believe in all of that stuff. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the criticism is. I'm sure there's probably some good reason somewhere, but
I just
I've
don't
never
understand
paid attention.
it. And even people who have criticized it, I don't get the issue with it. As a matter of fact, I came to the conference to hear Ed because of that, and I wanted to hear and as I'm hearing this, I'm like, this man believes in transformation of cities and nations. I'm on that page.
Yeah.
I want to see. I mean, I'm working in the Middle East for complete transformation. I mean, like I'm there. I don't get it,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to bash the people who have, if they have some good reason, but so far I haven't heard it and I don't understand it. Yeah. But I do see, I have seen, if I can say, places, like I said, growing up in certain circles where I saw some unhealth and process.
Sure.
But I see that more as us as humanity, again, with our feet of clay, but to write off an entire sort of movement I guess it's a movement, for that just doesn't make sense to me. You're always like, I've always appreciated you. We're talking about apostles, and a lot of people attribute you as an apostle. Mm-hmm. Out of the 5, what do you see yourself most as? If that's a fair question to ask.
It probably is a fair question. I don't really think about it, but I function probably most as an apostle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apostles by nature are supposed to see blueprints, see patterns in heaven that we apply here on earth. And that's basically
that makes sense.
The responsibility.
Yeah.
It's not a more spiritual person necessarily. It's not a ladder that you climb. It's a perspective. It's a grace that you carry. And I think that way. So probably, but that's not something I ever call myself, but
no, of course
I have, but it doesn't bother me when people do.
When people refer to you as that. I just encountered you sorry.
No, that's all.
I've encountered you in such a pastoral way.
Yeah.
Like, even I was going through a personal difficult time and you reached out and you were so, not that I was shocked by this, but you were so pastoral, so caring. But I mean, apostles
are supposed to be able to function in all 5.
Interesting.
I think. So.
That makes sense to me. But I really, and by the way, I want to thank you for that because, and you challenged me in things. You said, hey, what about that? And I was so grateful. But I saw this, and I see you here at Bethel. I see you. You greet people at the front, and I've seen you even stand at the back door. I'm like, what is he doing? He's, this is good. But you're so gracious and such a, where some people that, if again, I hate to say it, but this level may not be. What keeps you in that place, and what motivates you for that? Just to be that type of person and to be that type of person.
If I only deal with people in a crowd setting, I will misunderstand the grace on my life. It's when you're one-on-one that you find out what you have.
Interesting.
Yeah, you can pray for a crowd, see people get healed, but it's when you're one-on-one with somebody dying, that's when you find out what you carry.
Yes.
And so I will purposefully, especially in a large, 10, 15,000 auditorium, I'll sneak off the backstage and get down front where I won't get a line, but I'm still one-on-one.
Yeah.
And because that's where you find out what you have, because you can. There's an anointing for crowds, and I believe in it. And I think it's an important thing. But you can have a misunderstanding of what you carry just because he anointed you to minister to a crowd. You've got to know that you can still lay hands on the sick and they recover because of the release of presence through your life. It's an important part of life, and I don't want to have a misconception of who he's made me to be. And so staying face to face with people, looking at them in the eyes, asking about the kids and praying for sick uncle or whatever it might be. All of that's life, and I don't want to grow out of that.
Keeps your feet on the ground, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's important because it's there are levels of notoriety, there are levels of recognition by themselves. They're not that healthy. It's okay as a supplement to your life, but your life's got to be how you relate to people. And then the crowd thing is fine. It's what I'm supposed to do. But if that's all that my life is made of, I will get it wrong.
Yeah.
So I need one-on-one.
And it keeps you real, doesn't it?
Yeah,
keeps you in touch with that side of reality. Hi, Robby Dawkins here, and I want to encourage you to partner with us. We are doing our most ambitious year ever when it comes to our Arab Kingdom Training Schools and our American Kingdom Training Schools that we call AKTS, AKTS. And you can go to akts.global and partner with us. You can sponsor schools. You can also go to robbydawkins.com and be a regular partner with us. I want to encourage you to do that. Pray about that. Ask what the Lord wants you to do, because we need your support in able to go to these nations. These schools cost anywhere between $35,000 to $40,000 each. We have 5 just outside of the country this year. And then we have more that we're adding into this country this year. Normally we do 1 to 2 a year. We are looking at doing 4 this year right here in the United States. So we need your help. We need you to sow into it. And we need you to send us so we can go and equip the church to do the works and the ministry of Jesus. Partner with us today. You sow, we go. And now let's get back to Radical Radio. I'm just now remembering something that I wasn't planning on saying this or anything, but we were at it was in the early times when it wasn't the first time I met you. I think it was the second or third time. And Randy Clark was doing one of his schools, and I think it was in Pennsylvania. And I was actually over in Mechanicsburg teaching at a school, and I shot over for a half a day to be with you guys. Okay. And at one point he called up people to come into, with several of us. You were beside me, and I think Mike Hutchings was in one side, and several other people. We were lined up, and people came forward. And of course, there was this. You had the most amazing line, and I'm over there. Hardly anybody at that time knew anything about me or anything. Probably still don't, and that's fine too. But all of a sudden, I would see every now and then. It seemed like every third person you would point over, like you were directing them to come over to my line, and I thought, oh, this is Bill. Considering the poor, considering those who are lowly.
Oh, brother, I was wanting help.
You know what they said though? I finally asked a couple of them. I said, was Bill just thinning his herd to bring you over to me? Kind of along the lines of what you said. And they said, no, he told us there's something on your life that he felt I would touch more. And I just got to tell you, my shoulders went back, my chest went out. I was like, Bill Johnson just said about me.
That's right.
But regardless of whatever the motive was, it touched me that you said that, cool. And that. But I know that that's your character. I know that because I see you do that often. Yeah. And I'm just saying that because I want people to know that about you, because I know you're the person. You've made many 3-point shots on your own. But I know your joy is passing the ball and letting the others of us make those shots. And I appreciate that from you. When in the times of criticism and things like that, what sort of community sort of do you look for, whether with leaders or whatever, that sort of keep you, I don't know clearly how to ask this question, but is it people that you just work with enough? I mean, what I guess I'm trying to get at is, I know it'd be easy when we're feeling a little sore to go with people that are going to praise us.
Sure.
But it seems like you keep a circle around you of real authenticity, of the people that I know that are kind of in that circle. And is that something you advise? Is that something, and how do you do that? If I can ask that way.
Well, if I'm hurting, if I'm at a time of heavy criticism, I want to be with loyal friends. I don't want to be with flattery people, and I don't want to be with people who pride themselves in opposing you. I'm not interested in either. I'm just interested in authentic friends.
Yeah.
Because an authentic friend will know when to come and give comfort. An authentic friend will know when to say, hey, pay attention to this. And so that's what I seek out. I seek for the real thing.
Mm.
And I also, if I'm hurting, I don't want to meet with people and make our time together all about me and what I'm facing.
Sure.
None of us want to be a project.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So it's open for them to speak. When Benny died, I would spend time with the staff, and there were times where they wanted to make it about me and pray for me, which is fine to a point. But at some point, we've got to move on and just get back to doing life together and not make our gathering about my loss or your loss or whatever.
That's so good.
It's important, but who's blind Bartimaeus once he gets healed? You don't want to be known for your problem the rest of your life.
Yeah. The blind gets taken off after that.
Yeah.
Just a side little, sounds like off topic, but it was also a thing where there was some criticism. But I think about when the glory cloud came here. And I mean, I was like, I don't know who could not have seen the videos. I wish I could have been here and seen it in the reel.
26 times.
26 times. Now you got a lot of shots over that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, and I was sitting there going, how can you criticize this? I mean, how do you explain that to critics when they look at those things that are manifestation of the Spirit?
I have no need to.
That's why I asked this question.
Yeah, I have no need to. If I had some scientific evidence, I probably wouldn't show it to them.
Yeah.
I feel no need to convince anybody of anything.
Yeah. You know what's really cool? I was in a circle of some people, and Carol Wimber was in it, widow of the late John Wimber.
Yeah.
And somebody in this group said something in a not flattering way, and Carol jumped in there and she goes, "Hang on a minute. If the angels and the saints are dancing in heaven and their streets of gold, do you not think it's not going to, some of it come down here on us?" And she jumped to it, man. I loved it.
Yeah, she's a good lady.
She's amazing. I love that woman.
Yeah, I do too.
She's so good. But, just as we wrap up, what counsel would you give to other church leaders when they are facing these kinds of challenges? And you've really already given that, but just any sort of closing thoughts of what pitfalls to avoid, in those times of criticism and in those times of where can we, avoid going wrong?
Stay away from retaliation, revenge, guard your mouth.
Good.
Don't react. One of the first major conflict I experienced, it was in pastoring 50 years ago. And the Lord spoke to me the day before it happened out of Lamentations. I was reading. And he said, "Give your cheek to the smiter, put your face in the dust, perhaps there is hope."
Wow.
And then it goes on, he says, "It's important you bear this yoke in your youth." This is all in Lamentations.
Yeah.
And the next day, sure enough, exactly what happened.
Whoa.
And the individual was smiting me, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I had to say, I can't respond. I have to give you the other cheek,
Wow.
Which didn't help. It just made them all more angry. But in that
way, you're giving a glass of water.
Well, no, the best I knew how. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just not retaliating. And for this individual as a leader, whenever we would take communion, I'd go to him and break bread with him. I would call him on New Year's to wish him Happy New Year's, do everything that hurt.
Yeah.
I would intentionally do the things that caused me pain, just to make sure that he said, clean hands and a pure heart. Clean hands, at least part of it is you're not pointing fingers.
Ooh,
So make sure that my hand's clean, my heart is clean. And a year later, he came to me repenting and asking for forgiveness. But it was just 1 year of walking through that very challenging time. And the Lord warned me ahead of time. He said, "Give your cheek to the smiter, put your face in the dust, take the place of humility. It's important that you bear this new youth."
Wow. I remember when I was going through that challenging time, and you said, "Don't justify yourself."
Yeah.
See, every opportunity is an opportunity for God to speak into you and just don't move into justification. It doesn't help and it doesn't work. And I'm telling you, that's why we're having this conversation today. It was priceless, Bill.
Oh, good,
and I'm so grateful for it.
Good.
So grateful for it. Just as we close, if there's any leaders or people that are maybe going through any of these critical places and trying to figure out how to navigate that, would you just pray for anybody who's going through that, just as we wrap?
I had a real advantage. My home was always a place of peace.
Wow.
So no matter what was happening elsewhere, when I came home, it was my own private world, and I could just be healed and refreshed. So it pays to prioritize healthy family and family that knows how to have fun. And my wife was just so good at that. So I pray for that. I pray for everyone involved in this, that you would just connect us to people that know joy, people that know what it is to be community. Don't have to always get it right. They just love life and love you. And so I pray for that. I pray for great grace in navigating these kinds of challenges, that you give wisdom, great favor, a great anointing for breakthrough, and that you'd also put out a protection, that there would be that the enemy would not be allowed to come kill, steal, and destroy through any critics at all, but instead you would use it to propel us into a hope-filled future. I pray for this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Yeah.
And can I thank you?
Yeah.
Because in that being in your home, you've created that, from my perspective, as a place here at Bethel. It truly is Bethel. It is a place where the presence is pursued and consistently, and where it's a safe place, and it's a watering hole for sure. But just the pursuit of the presence and pursuit of just never giving up in that pursuit, and never changing the subject, as you say. I want to thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for tuning in to Radical Radio. We sure hope this blesses you and really speaks to you of anything that you're going through. Apply these things. These are just rich, valuable truths that can help us so much in our lives. And you're hearing it to me from one of the best, in Bill Johnson. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. And as always, stay radical.
This week's podcast is brought to you by Robby Dawkins Ministries. Do you know someone who would be impacted by today's episode? Share it with them and let us know what they think. Subscribe or follow this podcast so you don't miss our next episode. You can also leave us a review, like, comment, and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Until next time, stay radical.